friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa Grail. Welcome to the channel for mind, spirit and body, evolution and revolution. Today I'm especially glad because I'm among such beautiful nature. As you see, I'm on Staten Island in New York City, and I'm not alone. As you might see, I have beautiful woman, powerful and energized woman, energized with Kundalini energy, not only with Kundalini. And today the main goal, main idea of what we are shooting is Satsang number 4. It means meeting truth, and we will be sharing our experience and we'll teach some of you who might not guess how to help yourself to live in present moment, enjoying your lifetime without looking to your past or worrying about your future, just to enjoy your life to the fullest. Alana has her path, and it will be better if she will introduce herself and share her path, how it started, why she is living in the total buzz constantly from now on. Yes, and why we are so happy that we are ready to share something which we passed through us and realized during our path with others, because truly I feel compassion to those people who still live in very tightly in the mental programs and cannot get rid of the reason why they're suffering. Though for me it's obvious that we can easily and instantly free ourselves from ourselves. It sounds weird, but it is. So let me introduce Alana, and she will a little bit talk about herself.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and I'm so honored to be here with you. My transformation began about 4 years ago, but it really got catapulted when I found Kundalini, specifically Lisa's Kundalini. So I'll talk a little bit about my past and kind of how it led me to finding Lisa Grail. So I am a positive psychology practitioner. I was not that up until about 4 years ago. I was always just in sales and in the marketing world for about 15 years. And I was kind of just running around the world, always just trying to acquire and achieve and collect all of these things and get like a fancy house and the fancy cars and even like a fancy dog, and you know, trying to look perfect and be fit and thin and have this entire life where, you know, I'm juggling all of it with my kids and my husband and making sure that on the outside everything really looked really perfect. And I did all that, and you're kind of just told that if you do all that you're going to be really happy. And unbelievably, when I turned 40 4 years ago, I got a high blood pressure diagnosis, and my doctor told me I was going to go on medication, and I could not believe it. I was so shocked.
You were shocked, but you were at the same time somehow miserable, or not? Or you didn't realize that you are have these issues inside?
I think I didn't know that I was miserable. I was constantly obsessed with achieving, so I always was under the belief that if I had a perfect picture, that it didn't really matter how I felt. It only really just mattered that on the outside that I looked a certain way, and that so when people looked at me, they felt a certain way, that I kind of created an identity, and that if I created this kind of identity, that I would never feel pain, and that I would always feel safe, and that my entire life would be as it was supposed to. And when my doctor told me that I was going to go on medication, he said, "You're feeling a little bit of stress all the time, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but isn't that normal?" and this is the thing, because we all think that that's really the way that we're supposed to live, and we accept that as normal. And he said, "No, this is not normal. This is burnout."
So it was very tight mask which you were wearing to survive in society.
Yes, exactly.
And when was came the moment when you realized that this is not your true life? This is not you truly.
So I was told by him I should take medication, right? And I decided that I put myself in this place that I will learn to get myself out of this way of being. And I turned to positive psychology, and I decided that I would get a certification because through positive psychology, I saw that I could learn to actually lower my blood pressure using my mind. And I learned that if you're thinking of the future all the time, what next, what if, what am I going to say in my meeting next week, this is anxiety. And that if you're thinking about the past all the time, the mistakes I made, I'm judging myself, I'm like hating myself, because we all think we're gonna have like a perfect future, and we can't have a perfect future. So when you're judging yourself, what does this person think about me? Oh, I didn't say the right thing in my meeting. This is depression. And it was at this very moment that I realized that I think I just spent my entire life seesawing between the future and the past, the future and the past, the future and the past, anxiety, depression, and that I was missing out on the only part of life that we could ever experience, which is the present moment, the now moment. And I was like, oh my God, did I just like miss my whole life? So I decided I will rewire my mind for positivity. I will transform my default way of being into present moment living. And through that, I actually discovered that I had a truth, that I was hiding underneath the armor, kind of like this shell made of perfection for 40 years. So that's kind of like the beginning of understanding that the way that I was showing up wasn't even my truth, because I was so obsessed with how it looked, and I was so obsessed with if it didn't look right, so that future past. So that was the kind of very beginning. And in finding the present moment, I all of a sudden could find all the things that I never was able to experience before that we can only ever have in the present: love, joy, gratitude, appreciation, creativity, connection. And everything changed from there.
So it was kind of insight which came to you by logical self-analysis.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So for me it's also like this. Before, we just think that like unconditionally we think that this is me.
Yes.
Who else if not me?
Yes.
If this is me.
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, for example, I'm a responsible person, I am kind girl, I'm good girl, and so on. And it's very hard to remove this shield and understand that you are much more than this.
Exactly. It was exactly that. And I realized that the way that I grew up created for me kind of a template for being this person in my adult life. So if you like, I can go into that piece of it.
Yes.
So in my home growing up, I had two people in my immediate family with serious mental illness. And back in the 80s and the early 90s, really nobody's talking about this, right? So they were undiagnosed and they were also unmedicated, right? So in my childhood, I saw a lot of things that I didn't want to see. And I heard a lot of things that I didn't want to hear. So I wanted to escape, and I'm a child. I have no money, right? So where can I go? I would go into my room, and I would hide in my room, and I would actually go all the way within myself, as far in as possible, and put kind of like a shield around me of like numbness, so that I wouldn't have to hear or see anything that was going on. And this was the beginning of me creating this shell that I put that little girl inside, and she went all the way down within. And I didn't know at the time that that was depression. I had no idea, but that was my way for being able to cope with what it was that was going on around me. And I decided that because I didn't want to further burden anyone in my family, I will make my shell, I will make my armor out of perfection. I will be a child that shows up in the world exactly as everybody needs her to show up. And at the same time, I am going to leave my house as soon as possible. And it is going to be very good if I'm perfect, because then the highest volume of people in the world are going to accept me. And when I'm doing this, I'm going to be able to make as much money as humanly possible. And I'm going to be able to push and achieve. And I'm going to be able to make a new home that is safe and that is going to look totally different than the home that I had when I was growing up in, because if I do that, that means I am safe. So that was the very beginning of me realizing that my entire life, I was always pushing and planning and achieving. What next? How do I get out of here? How do I create this new home? How do I make sure that I look perfect and I'm accepted by everybody? And that was anxiety. And I didn't know at the time that that was anxiety. And then whenever I would mess up, because we can't have a perfect life, I went right back into my default way of dealing with not being perfect, which was going back into that kind of shell of protection. And I would be depressed and I would wind up in bed for sometimes days. And this was...
No energy at all to do even daily tasks.
And I would numb with alcohol for a number of years. I would be totally out of the present moment. And I didn't realize at the time that I completely put away the little girl that was inside of me for my entire life. And I didn't show up with her talents. I didn't show up with her truth. All of my friendships were all about making me feel validated. So I had like a really high number of friends, a high volume of friends, so that I could prove to myself that I was normal. And if at work I had a meeting that didn't go what I thought was perfect, I would say to myself, wow, you know, like, because it wasn't perfect, I'm not gonna get the deal. And because I'm not getting the deal, I can't support my family, maybe I'm gonna get fired, and then I can't give them the kind of life that they deserve, which is really just the life that I thought it should look like, different than my childhood. And then I would lay in bed and I would actually say, I shouldn't even have to work. It's my husband's fault. He should be the one who should work. And I became a victim. And this was my pattern for a number of years, until I had a realization of finally living in the present moment where I was actually able to find my truth.
Just before we continue to your story, I would like to add that it seems like I have the same story of myself, hiding myself in some kind of armor to protect myself from being attacked or being punished.
Right.
Because sometimes my father was very strict to my eldest sister, and I, watching this, didn't want this fate for myself.
Wow.
So I was a very good girl who couldn't express her emotions or her position. Sometimes I found that the strategy of escaping and closing my eyes on what I see will be much effective for my survival.
Yes.
The strategy of survival plays very important role in depression.
That's it.
Because when depression, mainly for me, this is when we so many times deceive ourselves. We not allow ourselves to live as we are, that finally we are turning to victim pattern.
Right.
Blaming and complaining victim who is searching for reasons from the outside without critical and real picture of what you are doing.
Right.
Because it was easier for me to say my project is not working because he is not doing this.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was very impatient. I didn't want to wait for enough time to make a business go, for example, and some kind of this pattern of impatience still. Sometimes I see it myself, but the difference is that I was absolutely attached to this image of myself, who are not me real. But now, what I love the present moment for is that you are absolutely detached from the image, illusory mindset, which you thought you are, and you can objectively choose your mood, your attitude. You are not falling into victim's pattern anymore. You are not pretending for yourself some image. You are different at very moment,
Right,
because life
right.
is about changing.
Yes, yes, and this is the whole thing. Like this is the beauty of life. You know, we start to realize that all of these different things have happened just for our growth, but we need to actually take ownership and become someone who can pull us out from being a victim. Because I too, like, was always pointing fingers, and it always ended up being, you know, everyone but me, and specifically my husband. And you know, my husband would just say,
The closest people usually.
yeah, the closest, exactly. And it's such an irrational thought that I would lay in bed and say I shouldn't have to work, when I created my own business like in the last few years that has become thankfully very successful, and like I love to work. Like I love to heal others. I love to present. I love to do workshops. I enjoy that. And so what was happening is, in the victim mode, right, where I was kind of just reliving this default template that was created in childhood, this is the energy that I would use to show up at the office all the time. And it was the energy of defeat. And I would consistently have an outcome because of this ongoing pattern of having to have new jobs all the time. Until I realized that here I am actually tying my self-worth to perfectionism.
Yeah, it's
Like
the same.
I'm like, you know, I'm feeling shame. I'm suffering with shame. Like I'm not worthy of love, and I'm not worthy of belonging, and I can't even like.
Not worthy to leave.
Yeah, I'm
finally.
not even worthy of, yes, and I need to like, you know, push myself down and stay in bed and drink, and I can't even like be a good mom, and I can't even be a good friend or be a good daughter. Who am I? I'm nothing. I'm disappearing again, all the way back into the shell. And at some point, I realized, you know, like, we all have these stories of shame. We all create an armor of perfection.
We
you
don't
know?
realize how it's dangerous, because
Yes.
all autoimmune diseases are made of this.
Exactly.
Because we want to die subconsciously to
Exactly.
punish ourselves and kill our even adrenal cortex. We can eat, our body can digest adrenal cortex, so we are destroying ourselves from within, and finally we are invalid for the whole lifetime. So
I love
really
that you said that.
dangerous.
This is the thing that I want people most to know, because we're all going around with this armor, and this armor was my high blood pressure. So I love that you said that, and it took me a while to realize that. But what happens is, because we all have some kind of trauma in our life, where we felt like we had to create this armor made of perfection, and we thought, okay, it's going to protect us from pain, from ridicule, from rejection, right? Like, and it does, right? In childhood, it's actually very good
It
for
works,
us.
yes.
It works, and it does what it's supposed to, but something happens around, like, you know, like usually like the mid to late 30s. For you, it happened a bit earlier, so you're amazing.
For 27.
Yeah, for 27.
Club
yeah.
27.
Club 27. Amazing. I had to wait till I was 40, but we realized that the armor that once really protected us is actually too heavy for us now. And it might have kept the pain out, but you can't selectively numb. So if you're going to numb pain, you're going to numb out joy.
Yeah.
That armor is keeping you from actually feeling love, from giving and receiving love.
Constant tension, and you can't relax. You cannot feel gorgeous on parties without
Right.
alcohol, because you're so
Right.
tense from within, and you don't realize it.
100%.
That you don't understand how the craving appears to some kind of. Without alcohol, I cannot speak freely.
Exactly.
I cannot
And you
be
need the
relaxed.
alcohol for it. I was the same. And this is the whole thing, because with the armor, if you're blocking, you know, like this like bi-directional, you know, like joy that I could, you know, have you feel my joy and I can feel yours, and the same with love and the same with connection, you're also staying small, right? So like you're not like expanding and sharing your truths and your talents. And at some point you're like, oh my God, I think I want to really take the armor off. Like I want to start to like chip away at the armor, but like now that we know that, how do we do that? And this is like where the real transformation really kind of just like started for me. I think that was like the beginning. Like there was a recognition of like who I am with my armor on, and it's what you're saying. You know, I'm someone who's controlling. I always have to be right. You know, maybe I wasn't a very good friend or mom or wife or daughter. You know, maybe I was like obsessed with materials and acquisition, and realize that that's just an armor. That isn't my truth. And I could start to chip away at it, but the way to do it is to say, so if I'm tying my worth to perfection, right? Was there ever a time that I felt worthy when I wasn't being perfect, and when was that? So I actually had to go back many, 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 many years to find this time. Yeah.
So when you first time is to, like they say usually, it's classics I think, to admit that you have problem.
Yes.
And you
yes.
just detect this problem, and then what you were doing to cure yourself.
Yeah.
Because as me, you also haven't turned to any specialist, as
right.
I understand.
It was all me.
So we also help people to realize their problem sincerely, not be afraid to look into truth.
Right.
And when you admit that you have some kind of problems, you should start. With what you should start, we should share right now how to help yourself.
Yeah.
How you help
And
yourself.
the first is to recognize that I keep on having the same outcomes. You know, I keep on like having to have the same, like a new job over and over again, but it's like the same kind of job, you know, and I
like
keep on.
Circle, vicious cycle.
It's a cycle, and what I started to realize is that if I wanted a different outcome, I need to have a different pattern, but to have a different pattern, you have to change the belief about yourself.
Rewired brain.
Yes, and this is where that came in. So I went all the way back. I remember I was laying in bed and a visualization came to me of me being at my grandma's house. And my grandma, who is still the light of my life, she died when I was 27, so this is a really long time ago that she hasn't been here anymore. But I remembered that someone had said that if you call yourself the name that the person who loved you when you were a child unconditionally, if you called yourself that name, that you would still feel that same unconditional love inside of you. And I thought Shana Madela, which is good girl, which is what she called me. And I remember I was laying in bed during one of these really low times that I was really suffering from depression, and this would go on sometimes for a few days, and I would be numb and paralyzed. And I was back, and I was in her apartment, which doesn't exist anymore. And I remember I was just laying in bed there and just feeling what it was like to wake up in her bed, and we used to, you know, like have these sleepovers all the time, and it was like these two twin beds stuck together, and just the warmth of the blanket and the way that it smelled. I remember it smelled like matzo brie all the time, and I was like, you know, laying next to the window, and there were like the drapes hanging there, and you know, outside the window was a courtyard of all the other apartments, and you kind of feel the wind coming in and out, and she'd always be up before me making breakfast in the other, down the hall in the kitchen, and I just remember feeling this is the safest that I've ever felt and the best that I've ever felt, and it came wrapped in this feeling of extreme acceptance that I was just perfect just as I was, perfectly imperfect, and that I could do no wrong, and that feeling that was in there, I realized that this apartment is gone. It is gone forever, but that feeling of unconditional love that I got just so filled up with it was always there. It was always there. And I didn't have to do anything to feel that feeling. I didn't have to acquire or achieve or be anything but myself. And that's when I realized that my heart stopped hurting, and that the pain in my heart was my little girl, my inner child. She was living in my heart. And every time she felt unsafe or unsure or like, you know, unaccepted, that she would kind of just like knock on the door of my heart. She would knock, and I would ignore her.
Knock. I want to share right now, I have insight, share the secret.
Yeah.
Not only how to heal yourself, it came just right now to me, to be sincere. But how to visualize and materialize your dreams.
Yes.
I understood what it is.
Yes.
It comes from living through sensations,
Yes.
not through thoughts and conceptions
Yes.
of mind. It's very easy because Alana described how she felt exact sensations, smells, and warmth in the body. So our brain works like this.
Yes.
To achieve the desired picture in our life, we just need, first of all, to feel with our body, to imagine with all our sensitive organs, how to be like in funnel, how to be sucked inside this space.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
is connected with all our material realizations as well. Because, you know, I hate cold weather. And I was just feeling myself in warm climate. And this is somehow being realized right now. Not rejecting the picture, just I don't want to see this,
Yeah.
not these mental evaluations which
Yes.
make you much more be in the pattern of a victim, always suffering, and you cannot get out of this. But to accept what it is, but in your body already here and now, feel differently, like start enjoying even if there is no reasons to enjoy. This is the
Exactly.
hardest.
Exactly.
This is the hardest,
yeah.
but this is the key.
Yes.
To start living from sensations and not evaluations of the mind. We can shift to we can make this perspective shift.
Yeah.
Enlightenment.
Yes.
What I try to explain everyone, because it's so easy, but at the same time it's very hard because our attention is very defocused on many overthinking regarding problems, tasks, that today, even within one day, we are living 10 minutes ahead of time. So if I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow, today we are going to
Right.
the blues concert,
Yes,
for example.
yes.
I'm not thinking about this,
Right.
though I want to listen to
Right.
this concert,
Yes,
and
though
I'm
it's
willing,
exciting. Yeah.
but I'm not expecting the reality to be here and now at the same time. Why? I'm enjoying right now because it's good here. And then after 5 minutes, we will be discussing something else, and I will be totally present here.
Yes.
I will be feeling my body, and you know, it turns the whole life to psychedelic trip, to be honest.
Yes, yes, yes. This is the whole thing. You know, you realize that if you already have all of this already kind of just like programmed inside of you, and that you can call on it at any time, you do it often enough, it becomes your default way of being, and feeling stress and anxiety is no longer the thing that you are comfortable existing in all of the time. It just in no way makes any sense whatsoever to do that. It's no longer a fit, because we don't have to hustle for our self-worth when we already are filled up with the unconditional love that's always been available to us all of the time. Instead, we just won the right to live in the present moment and actually give and receive that unconditional love on a regular basis. And we can actually just power our existence with that. And when you do that, you get these kinds of results. Like Lisa is able to really live in the energy of what it is that she wants to create before it's been manifested. She's using her mind to create a visualization. Wow, you know, I want to come to America. I want to be in a warm place. This is the way that it would feel, and I can almost actually be that person right now in real time when I understand, like from a sensation perspective, what it would be like when I'm doing that. Because now when I'm doing that, now we're looking at quantum mechanics, because now we're actually a vibrational match for what it is that we want to manifest. And then we draw it to us in real time. And this is the reason why anytime we become a victim of the defaulted energy, which is just a templatized program from the past for survival, what we're doing is we're siphoning away our energy, which we only have 100% of, and we're putting it towards recreating that same familiar past over and over again with that old energy. So now what we're able to do is, if we are comfortable in the generous, eternal, ongoing present moment, we now have the ability to live in the sensations, to live in the feelings in real time of what we envision our future to be. And we become the outcome. We become our future right now. And the beauty of that is us living our greatest potential in real time, ahead of the environment telling us to do so, which means we're not just in human mastery, because we're choosing the emotions, we're choosing the sensations ahead of an outcome, along with the corresponding thought patterns that serve us. And we're also at the same time in mastery of the environment, because regardless of what's happening around us, we know everything's always going to be crazy, but like what we have control over is how we feel. And this is what you can actually achieve when you understand what your patterns are from the past and you take ownership of them.
And of course, from the biological, physiological level, it also certain harmonization of all our systems. What we do on my channel with Kundalini Yoga, but both mental work and bodily work is necessary to shift. Because if body is always triggered with cortisol, adrenaline, and this all stuff, it's very hard. If your nervous system is cracked and disbalanced, you have your endocrine disbalance, it's very hard to be normalized. I know people who are constantly being attacked with memories about their horrific past, and how we can shift our attention from thinking about memories, how they called me, how they bullied me at school, for example. How can I escape to the present moment? For my, I will share what I think, is just perceive the world as if you see it for the first time. I just look at the camera and I think that this is kind of object that has shape, color, but I don't even know what is shape and what is color. I just perceive without any evaluations each picture I face. And when a person is speaking, I don't evaluate someone as beautiful or not. I just see how the beautiful creature is talking to me, and this is a miracle. Some sounds that I heard, and the whole space for me becomes magical. So my attention is not thinking just in this picture, and I cannot think about my past anymore. I trained my brain to perceive the world like this, and I even cannot imagine how to worry, how to suffer, how to remember about my traumas. I sincerely not feeling hurt when even I try to remember them. And all my way shows how many obstacles I had on the way to America. It's unbelievable. I had 6 flights. I had a lot of inspectors who was asking, why are you going, for what are you going, and many serious questions asked straightly in eyes. So probably previous me would be, at least I would be worrying. At least. As maximum, I would be in total tremor and anxiety. And I was alone with big suitcase and so on.
Amazing.
But I was constantly present. I was looking in the airport at people and thinking, wow, they're so amazing. They're so different. Wow. I was like a child in Disneyland. And my life is totally this. No matter what is going on, like objectively in the world, is it bad or good for me? There is no bad, no good, just something is happening. I'm watching film. And I trained my brain to perceive the world like this. And now I would like to hear your story, because everybody has unique path. So how for
That's
you?
That's amazing, by the way. Amazing. She's amazing.
You're amazing too.
Thank you, but
that's
that
why
you did
we're
it by
sitting
yourself.
together.
Yes, that's why we're here right now. That's why this is happening.
We cannot stop. We're just talking 24 hours.
Yes, we've been talking for 24 hours, actually. This is just a little snippet of all the talking.
We will continue in the evening.
So thank you for asking me that, because I feel like that, you know, this kind of part of the story really is where the transformation lives. So like when I went back to that little girl, you know, I realized that it wasn't just that little girl that needed to be saved and recognized and told that she could come out now, and that, you know, we were gonna like fully show up in the world with all of our truths and all of our talents, and she didn't have to be afraid anymore because I got this. So it was almost like me becoming my own mother and my own father, where I got to the point where I said, like, every single time I would feel kind of like this pain in my heart, I would actually talk to my heart, and I knew that I was talking to that little girl, and I would soothe her. And over time, that's what lowered my blood pressure, and she felt safe. And what I started to realize is that there wasn't just this little girl that I orphaned. There was every single version of me that I had orphaned. And I went through every single version of myself that I thought was promiscuous, or like drank too much, or did too many drugs, or like did all the wrong things that I wasn't supposed to do, kind of just when I was wearing this armor. And I remember I used to not be able to even look at pictures of myself. I couldn't even look at my past. I tried so hard to just get rid of my entire past and create a totally different life, when in actuality what I needed to do was go back to my past and look at every single version of that girl and know that every single thing that she did, like every single thing that she did, was exactly as it was supposed to be, because probably any person in this circumstance might have done this in order to survive, and that all of these versions of myself were all beautiful, and that they were all worthy of love, even the ones that I had a really hard time looking at and thinking that was beautiful. Even she was beautiful. And I went to every single version of them, and I forgave every version of them for any of the things that they might have did, because they all led me to here. They all led me to now. And this is the beauty. Yes, this is the beauty of it, because when you drop the judgments, like you said before, about yourself, about all the different versions of yourself that you were, you now can drop the judgments of yourself now, and you at the same time can drop the judgments of all of the people around you and realize, wow, everybody's actually doing their best. This is their best. Like, my parents were doing their best, my brother was doing his best, and everyone, the way that they're showing up today, if this is the way that they're showing up, and they're showing up so terribly, I now have compassion, because I had compassion for every single version of myself that I ever was. I got compassion for my parents, knowing that they were doing their best, thinking about the way that they grew up, and that this was the way that they could share love. This was the best that they could do, even though they never asked me if I was okay. They never asked me if I needed help. And I had a lot of anger towards that. They couldn't believe that I wasn't going to be okay. They almost couldn't even fit it into their heads. And whenever I would try to think about the past, it was still held with anger. And that was where that default energy came of being a victim, so that I carried it into my now, and I carried it into pointing, at my husband. I pointed a finger there. So what I really was able to do to heal was to actually go back and realize that not only could I send love to that child and all of the versions of myself from my now self, as a mother, as a father, and sit in the shoes of what it would be like if I was every version of myself, receiving the love from my now self, being fully nurtured. But what would it be like if I could also actually receive the love from my mom and from my dad, knowing that they unconditionally always loved me, but they just couldn't give it to me in the way that I needed it at that time, just because of their own suffering. And what would it be like to actually sit in the shoes and receive that love and become so whole and be filled up by it? And also from my brother, because I knew that he also loved me, but he couldn't actually give it to me in the way that I needed it then. And throughout all of those years, what would it be like to be that little girl and be every version of myself who was flooded with the love that was always there, but it just wasn't given to me in the way that I needed it at the time? And that is where healing is living, because now you can completely let go of the anger and the resentment, and you can have a deep sense of compassion for them, knowing this was their best too, and you can actually give them love back throughout all of those years, which frees you up to take off your armor and give love to everyone now too. And then the final piece of it was knowing that God, the universe, source, Jesus, if you're dyslexic, you say dog, whatever it is.
Global consciousness.
Yeah, global consciousness, whatever words you want to say, actually was there the entire time.
Present in the
The
moment.
entire
Watching
time.
film.
Yeah, and this came to me in visions where, for me, this is really strange, and I'm just going to say it, I've never said it on camera before, being Jewish, it made no sense to me at all, but like I would have visions where I would be going back to that little girl back in my room when I was hiding in my shell, and all of a sudden Jesus Christ is standing there and he's telling me, you don't have to go and push and make a new home because you've always been home. I am your home. Or you don't have to try and be perfect to receive love from the entire outer world, because you've always been loved and you've always been perfect. And you've always been safe. And you start to notice, wow, I was always safe. I was always safe. I don't have to push and be crazy to go create this new world that I'll be safe in, because I was always safe. And this was the healing, to know that actually all of this happened with the universe there also always giving you unconditional love through every single version of all of the difficulty, because this was only here for my growth so that I could sit here today and tell this story.
So I guess it sounds like quantum psychology. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
because I think that in modern world we need to have another approach how to heal people, because if we will just little bit correct the artificial personality, which is not dead, which is still alive, it doesn't work for a long period. Whether we choose a psychiatrist and neuroleptics and some pills to just keep on living somehow, or we are choosing to get rid of all mental programs we have, to renew, to go to zero state, to neutral state of mind, and this is generally it's called in the world as enlightenment state and life in the moment. So it means that we need to modernization make for the psychological approach. And I think that quantum psychologist is term which can be applied to this approach, because it just heals in quantum field in the all variety and possibilities of our beingness.
Exactly.
It can heal your past, it can create any future you want, and it can make you live in totality of the moment at the same time.
Yes, and so what's happening here is, instead of us siphoning away the energy that we could be using for living in the present moment and creating the life that we truly want to draw to us energetically by being a vibrational match, right? Instead of siphoning that energy away and putting it towards the anger that we had for the people that were there when our patterns were created, we instead can just take ownership for those patterns, recognizing that that was simply just here for our growth, and that we can actually be appreciative. Like, I became appreciative for my entire past, that I was the well child, that I had something that no one else has, this level of perspective that I can come now into this world and have this kind of conversation with you, have this kind of experience, understand the kind of teachings that I can disseminate across the world, so that everyone can understand that all it takes is ownership of creating those patterns in order to have a different belief around ourselves. And now when we have a new belief, we are empowered to create a new pattern, which immediately, get ready for it, yields immediate, unbelievable outcomes that you would never even think could ever happen in your life.
So my main pattern, if I can call, is to be spontaneous. I don't know what's next. I'm I don't know what to expect from my reality and myself.
Yeah.
And this is freedom. I know that I'm totally adequate and not crazy. This is for sure. I hope you believe it too. But
I definitely don't think you're
because,
crazy.
yes, I can plan only some schedule for what I need to, for example, issue a new video, to share some kind of post which also arises from nowhere, like inside, only like
Right.
this, not with my logic or some other
Right.
things. So we are becoming more genius.
Right.
And regarding the global plans, who am I, what I should do in life, I reject any kind of idea because it's useless.
Right.
It's useless to make any kind of projection of my future because I sincerely don't know.
Right,
And
of
that is
course.
why it's not a feeling of not safety. It's freedom, vice
Right.
versa, because many people say that they can plan for 5 years to be where they want to be, but no gives any guarantees. We faced this on quarantine, and no one learned from this. They were
Right.
resistant
Right.
and saying, no, I don't want this, I don't want to see this, give me this. This is also very infantile psyche. This is the psyche of not a creator of your reality, but a victim.
A victim.
Because
Yes.
creator will understand, okay, why I have this? I will manage it.
Right.
I will do step by step. I will turn this disaster to my benefit.
Yes.
And I will operate my world as I want. But not from this willing as crazy, like give me, but just I love myself, I'm okay, the world is okay, why not giving me this?
Right. Yes.
From this position
Yes.
of creator, of someone who is ruling, who on top of his world, not a victim who can be beaten or
Right.
bullied each time you are on the street, for example. And how to understand this and to be more confident, how to believe in yourself after you know all this background about
Yeah.
yourself, how to do it.
Yeah.
Just for me, it was a little bit difficult because I was such kind of person who was under the influence of elder sisters, society, and I was happy to accept all that they were telling me.
Right.
But at one moment, I understand that I'm different
Right.
person. I have another path, and I have to rely on myself. If I won't be relying on myself, then on whom I
Right.
should? Who will give me this? Like for women, it was a little bit hard because women searching for men usually.
Right.
For whom
right.
to sit
to save
on
them.
the shoulders.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
But for me, this is adolescence, when you have responsibility for your whole life, no matter who you are, female or
Right.
male. And how it was for you when you realize that you are great, you can do anything. I'm the lizard king. I
yes,
can do
yes,
anything.
the lizard king. I love it. We'll sing the Doors in a minute. And this is the whole thing, because either you're using your energy for survival and creating the same patterns and the same outcomes over again, or you're using the energy for creation and having brand new patterns with outcomes that you don't know what they're going to be. And you're unattached from those outcomes because you're now powering your life with unconditional love and joy, which means that you have this confidence that it actually doesn't really matter what does or doesn't happen, because it's all happening the way that it's supposed to, specifically for your growth. And that is the joy of life. That is the beauty of why we're here. And once you circumvent one pattern, the universe is like, oh, okay, you're ready for something new, right? You're ready for something bigger. Instead of this low-level minutia of like you having the same role over and over again and getting fired pretty often, I'm now going to give you something really cool to work on instead. And when you take that and you welcome that challenge, that is you growing. This is expansion. This is the reason why we're here. And we all have the ability to live this way. And for me, it was recognizing that, like, I always bounced back. Like when I was depressed, I could be depressed for days or even weeks and be in bed and numb with alcohol. And at some point, I always crawled out of bed. Like, it always happened, and I always bounced back, but look how much time that I lost being out of the present moment, unable to create, to connect, to innovate, to be with my children, my family, my husband. So if you can notice in real time when the body is being this messenger for heavy emotions, and understand that you actually have the ability to use that for growth, all of it becomes really interesting and fun. And I remember I learned in positive psychology that you can ask a question, a creator question, when you're feeling depressed. So like my husband would always say, oh, just don't think about it. And I would be so mad, you know, like you can't not think of something, because like it's like saying like, if I told you like don't think of a purple elephant, what do? You're thinking of a purple elephant, right?
This rumination is very hard to get rid of.
You need to have a new way of thinking. You need to like actually redirect, and the way to do that is to ask yourself. And I remember learning this, like my teacher was like, ask yourself a creator question, like, how do you want to show up? And that will disrupt depression. And I was like, yeah, right, that's not gonna work. So here I was, I'm laying in bed, and you know, my husband once again, just don't think about it. And I'm like angry at him. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna ask myself a creator question. And I asked myself, what do I wanna make of this? What do I wanna get out of this, right? That I didn't do a good presentation, and like, well, okay.
Who will save me? It doesn't work.
Yeah, the answer is like, I wanna show up better next time. I want to show up powerful. I want to show up, you know, funny and sharing love and like enjoying myself and like knowing my presentation better. And all of a sudden I'm downstairs making dinner for the kids. So I realized, okay, we always have this fear that like we can't handle it, but we always do. We always handle it. So if we know who we are when we're bouncing back, that is the energy of our truth. So if you can think of a time, like I went back to my grandma's house, right? You can think of a time that you bounced back and who you were and what it felt like. And the answer for me was, I was full of light. I could feel it. It wasn't heavy with chest pains. It was like, oh, light in my chest. And it was like expansive. And I almost like felt it in my jaw. And I was empowered, and I was strong, and I was excited. The 3 E's I like to call it. And another one I throw in, ecstatic. And that is my truth. And however often I choose to start my day with that truth means I can actually live in a place of creation as often as I want. Do it often enough, that becomes your default way of being. And whatever it is that you put out there into the universe, whatever patterns that you're now thinking of, whatever visualizations that you're having, if you match that with all of these elevated sensations and emotions, the universe now sees she's ready for greatness. She's ready for more. And this is how all of everything comes to you. Your intuition gets heightened. You connect with your heart. And this is like probably like a whole other conversation, so I'll like throw it back to you now. But that's to answer your question around how did I realize that there was a new way of being that was a creator.
You know, for me, also one kind of trick that I know that it will happen as it should be. It should happen. So no matter how I try, I will try to do my best. But some kind of responsibility, I always shift to some higher power than me. So this should be the trust of the warrior, who is ready to even die each second. When you accept any kind of result, you not expect any kind of, you have no importance regarding the events, your life in general, because we all here to enjoy. We are not so important. We just need to be, we are precious, but we are not so important. This is difference. It doesn't mean that I should kill myself right now because I'm not important. No, I'm precious because I'm the part of something big. And my task is to enjoy, to love, and to unpack all my talents, which were given to this avatar, to watch this movie by God, by consciousness. Whoever He is present, I feel it each second. So believe me, it is. It's just like a pure beingness, which is in total buzz from the events. And only our crazy mind, mental programs, are just like spoiling this film, this scenario. We cannot enjoy only because we have too much importance. This is called ego. Regarding our personality, how they think about us. usually they don't care.
Right, right.
Usually they don't.
Usually it's so
they
true.
just ruminating
Yeah.
about themselves. So once you realize that you should do everything you can, but you're not perfect, you can just shift some responsibility to higher self or to God, no matter what it's called. It's always there. It was there before your birth, and it will be when this will die. It will die. I will become immortal. I'm joking. Yes. So for me, you feel such great relief when you realize that nothing depends only on you.
Yes.
But at the same time, you will do as you can. At this moment of time, it will be perfect.
Yes. It's surrender.
It's surrender.
It's surrender.
Like there's
Yeah.
a dwell in God.
Yes,
Dwell in
yes,
God.
I love that. I love when it's
Yogi
Yogi
Bhajan.
Bhajan, right? I love when you play that, and it's so true. We were talking about this morning.
To release the grip of control and just leave.
This is it, because the control is armor, and we have no control. We all think like we have so much control. We're not, right? Like we were talking about this morning, like we're not doing anything, to be honest. Like we're being done. We are all like put here, by like this universal intelligence. It's the same thing that beats our hearts. It grows our hair, it grows the grass, it makes the world spin. We've all come from the same place, and we're all going back to the same place. And when you're in a place of complete acceptance, then you're in a place of complete reception, of being able to actually have all of the things that the universe has in store for you, because the universe now knows that you're ready, right? Like, is the universe going to send you something if your left brain is constantly saying, what about that time you messed up? Or like that person, she doesn't like you, or like, it's potential that like you're going to run out of money. No. The universe is only going to send it to you when you're already living in a place of joy. The universe wants you living your truth in a place of joy and doing it so that you're sharing it using your talents that you've been given in the form of just unconditional love for all of the people that are around you, which means that you're helping to actually shift the energy of the earth. But to do that, right, in order to actually be in reception and show the universe that you are ready for all of the great things that it's ready to send you, you have to first be filled up with that unconditional love. And to allow yourself to fill up with that means that you've connected with all of the love that comes from above and from below. There is an energy that's available through the universal intelligence that's all around us that is meant for us to just be flooded with this love. And this is the love of light. And we all have darkness, right? We all have these blocks. But self-healing really begins when our willingness to allow the light to overpower the darkness is greater than our need to hold on to those blocks, to hold on to that dark. Because when that happens and you allow all of the light to flood you and all of the darkness goes away, you get completely filled up with unconditional love from Source, which means all of your judgments fell away, which means what happens on the outside doesn't matter anymore. Your preferences fall away, which means you're so filled up with this unconditional love that it actually is like flowing out of your heart center. And that's why you share it, because you now have no judgments for anyone on the outside either. It doesn't matter what they're doing or not, because you're going to share it unconditionally in the form of your talents, which is your purpose. And that is why we're here. And when you're doing that, now when Source sends you the thing that you think you're ready for, like 100 clients to coach or like 200 talks around the world, you're not going to be like, oh, but what if like I don't know what I'm saying, or like that time that I said it but I didn't do it right. Like the universe already wants you in that place where you are just of the light, so that you are now wholeheartedly tapping into the information that's available in the quantum field, which will power your talk, right? Which will power your coaching, which will power this conversation. Because now the brain is being used for what it's meant to be used for, which is just a tool to support the innovative, intuitive ideas that come out of the heart center. And this is us just waking up the connection from the heart to the right brain, which we hardly ever turn on. And when you make this shift, This is when everything comes, unbelievable abundance, but you're first living in the energy of abundance.
So you don't know what happens, but for sure you get lucky each second.
Right, every
And
second.
Also, one more technique which I would suggest everyone is to feed your white wolf inside. So we have two wolves, black and white. If you feed this animal who is light, he just serves you much more than black wolf. And if you will focus your attention only on positive moments that happened during the day, you can list them on paper.
Yes.
And this is kind of technique which should be done constantly. During, as they say, for our brain to rewire, we need 90 days of any kind of. So to maintain this on cellular structure, we need 90 days to make it happen. Just like gratefulness for something, 10 points, or positive moments, wherever you like. And also, I would recommend to catch yourself anytime if you have self-punishment or like feeling of guilt. You need to catch yourself during the day how many times you try to say that I'm not worthy and so on, and just stop yourself and realize, and that's it, just watch. It's enough.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Also you detach yourself from this. You're not like together in this pattern of victim anymore. You see it, and when you see it, there is a witness who won't you ever believe truly in this pattern anymore.
Yeah.
So it's enough only to observe your thoughts, to detach from your thoughts, and just be like wondering if it's truth or false, because we sometimes say that's me and this is how I am. I'm a loser, I'm ugly, and so on. And we are persuading ourselves, and the reality as a mirror reflects and confirms that we are such. If we are sure that we are worthy of love and anything on this planet which will be only for our abundance and safety and development, then we will get what we want. But it will be like the very logical cause-effect situations that will be sometimes considered as miracles by other people, because someone is asking me, Lisa, what are you doing? Are you witch? Yes, because sometimes my life is like miracle.
Yeah.
How many people, for example, have such luck to win green card? They, for years, sometimes, maybe it's not for my happiness. I don't know. Maybe I came here to die tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
Maybe.
But, yeah.
That's another option.
Yeah, I receive any option, but I'm sure it won't happen.
Yes.
But just in case, we have the large range of possibilities, instead of narrow thinking that we are creating by ourselves about our very narrow mindset. We don't accept these opportunities, just closing up, because our brain thinks that it knows better than we, that it needs this and this and exactly in this package, in this box, and at this time. If not, it will be resistant that, wow, I was expecting this, why not today? But you should, this is about control.
Yeah.
To release and to allow the world to give you anything, even if you think that this is bad.
Yes.
There is no good and bad. Black and white thinking should be erased.
Everything that happens is good. And Dr. Wayne Dyer would say to be open to all and attached to none. And this is like such
He was Zen Buddhist.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites. I always say, like, I became obsessed with him and I wanted to go find him talking, and then I found out he was dead. And it was like I lost a person, you know. That's how much I loved him. But what we're talking about is living through the heart, you know, and which is where our truth is, and our intuition lives, and all of our great ideas come from. And when we're doing that, we are doing the opposite of what Lisa was saying before, where we're letting the mind be in control, where it actually causes doubt and judgment and creates cortisol in our body, where our genes actually express and we don't even live as long because we're telling the brain on an ongoing basis that it's really hard out here and we're in a survival place. And
we need to die.
And we need to die. Like eventually the brain is like, oh, should we not be here anymore? Because we can make that happen. And that's where you're seeing long-term chronic illness happening across the entire globe, and everyone like expects that. And that's where my high blood pressure came from. And the opposite way of living is through this elevated emotion, where we're living through the sensation, as Lisa was talking about before, where when we purposely experience joy, love, compassion for all, we are actually sending a message up to the brain using the heart. And the brain gets this message that actually, no, life is worth living, that we're having a really good time here.
I want to explore, I want to research. I'm greedy for life right now. I was never before such excited about my life.
Yeah, and the brain gets this idea from the heart, we're in a place of self-healing. And now, like, the brain responds back to the heart and says, okay, if you're saying life is worth living, I'm going to give you a biology.
Much more presence.
Yeah, for longevity. And the brain turns on something like 1,300 positive chemical reactions. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. It lowers your heart rate. It removes your inflammation. It eats the tangles that causes Alzheimer's. Like, we can boost our immunity this way. We can fight off cancer this way. Because now we are saying that we have a reason for being here, and we're having a really good time here. So this is where you start to see the gene code can be reversed, aging can be reversed, and you can get to the point that you are living in a state of wholeness, and this is an elevated vibration that people around you can feel. And this is really something that is so amazing to me, because if I see Lisa and she's suffering and she's spiraling down, just by me showing up with this kind of high vibrational way of living, I can help Lisa to spiral up before I even said anything. And that's because I am now powering my own electromagnetic energy field with this elevated vibration that actually interacts with Lisa's own quantum yes, and it helps her to spiral up. And what we don't realize is that we get a chemical reward when we do that. We are wired to do that. We get the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin. We get our bliss chemicals just for doing that, which is unity consciousness, which is the evolution of human consciousness. This is where we're moving towards, right? And that feels better than the isolation consciousness that we've all been raised in, that like, what it is that we buy and like how we look and like all that we accumulate and all of our achievements, the me is really the thing that's most important, but that is actually what's making us ill.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So this was Satsang 4, and I think that we will finish for today because we really want to have a good time.
Yes, now we're going to the city.
Yeah. Without alcohol, without anything, because this is not necessary anymore, because I enjoy each moment, and I see and feel that Alana always does. And I also see people who are living very deeply in their mental conceptions and patterns, though I'm ready to help everyone who wants my help to detect this pattern, to release it, and to work with your body with the help of Kundalini Yoga. You're welcome. You can write me anytime, on email or Instagram, and we will have 40 days marathon working one-on-one together. And also I want to advise you, because I know this is master of enlightenment, I will call it quantum
psychologist. I love that. Wow, thank you. That's a perfect title.
A master who obtained this kind of state of consciousness, which is sometimes very hard and rare to obtain. So I also will share all contacts of Alana in description to this video. You can contact her, and she is suggesting. What do you suggest?
Well, I do workshops. I do workshops for men, workshops for women, teenagers. I teach in corporate and also in the education space. But I do want to say that the work that I've done can only go so far, because there are physical energies that we hold, within our spine and then down into the organs and the tissues, really the cellular structures that need to be released. So even though we can have heightened awareness, we can understand the languaging of the body, if we're not releasing all that we've been carrying around within the chakra system, we can only go so far. So this is where I turn back to Lisa and say, I have really catapulted my healing this year, specifically, as has my husband, and I tell everyone to do Kundalini Yoga with Lisa, because I have released all of the old survival energy that has been within me from childhood through her channel. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me stay in your beautiful house.
Oh, you're so welcome.
With your beautiful family.
Thank
because
you.
I
never want her to leave. Actually, I'm going to try to keep her.
I'm so happy to see that families can be truly happy, because
oh, thank you.
Our state is about healthy psyche as well. And we just need to expand this knowledge, because it's not very difficult to help yourself. You don't need to spend a lot of money on medication and so on. You have a chance, and everyone should hear this. You can get rid of depression in just 7 days with the help of complex work. Just you need to know this information.
Yes, yes.
So welcome to workshops of Alana. Thank you, Alana, for this very, I think, vivid conversation, which was spontaneous as our life. And I think that I will rewatch it again, and maybe I will be shocked that something was speaking through our bodies.
Yes, yes. I can't wait to see this.
Constant
so thank
flow.
you. Yes,
And
it did feel like that. Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
Love and light.
Yes.
Satnam.
Satnam.
And stay true and kind. The rest things, never mind. Bye.
Bye.